The Jets have fired their head coach, but they are still the prohibitive favorites to trade for star receiver Davante Adams, which could set up the Chargers to reunite with Mike Williams.
You are Locked On Chargers, your daily podcast on the Los Angeles Chargers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, and welcome into the Locked On Chargers podcast. I'm your host, Daniel Wade, joined as always by my co-host, David Drogemeyer, and we've been covering the Chargers now for 9 seasons together, but this is our 7th year as the host of the Locked On Chargers podcast, bringing you your team every day. Thank you to the everydayers out there for making us your first listen. To make sure that you never miss the show, go subscribe or follow for free on the Locked On Chargers YouTube channel and listen wherever you get your podcast from. David, what do we got today?
Well, the Chargers had to make a very difficult decision by parting ways with Mike Williams, and there may be another opportunity to bring him back into the fold. So we'll have to monitor that. And will the Chargers offense be able to work out the kinks, be able to get into form, because they definitely need to if they want to win some ball games down the stretch. And speaking of that style, that Harbaugh style of offense, is that built to compete against the best teams in the NFL?
It seems like it is, but also they've played 2 over 500 teams and they've lost both those games. But today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use the code all lowercase LockedOnNFL to win $50 instantly when you play $5. David, a lot of trade talk for us about wide receivers. No on Davante Adams, yes on Amari Cooper. But Mike Williams is one that is very interesting because he obviously has a ton of success with Justin Herbert, has that chemistry with him. He also has, played his best football under Justin Herbert, with Justin Herbert. And let me start by saying this. We would love the Chargers to trade for an interior offensive lineman, but yes, you're not going to find many, if any, examples of teams trading their starting interior offensive lineman or offensive lineman, period, in the middle of the season. It just doesn't happen very often. That's our number one priority. But the offense has been stuck in the mud, and this is a guy that I think could help that. And I think when you're looking at the situation, he makes a ton of sense for the Chargers, who have a super young and inexperienced wide receiver room. And I think all this does for a guy that's on a 1-year contract right now is takes a little pressure off of Ladd McConkey to be wide receiver 1 right now, off of Quentin Johnston to take an even bigger leap than he already has by giving you a guy that can be that X receiver, gives you a threat in the red zone, gives you a deep threat, and you have not been a deep threat at all in the passing game so far. I think it makes a ton of sense, David, for a 1-year, rental kind of thing, but you already know he could slip right into with the Chargers and have a great rapport with Justin Herbert.
And one of the elements of this offense that has been really missing is that contested catch, go up and get it type of play. We haven't really seen a lot of that because I don't know if the Chargers trust the receivers that they have in those situations. They really haven't drawn up a lot of those situations. So they know what Mike Williams brings to the table. Mike Williams has kept the Chargers in a lot of football games over the years. And yeah, he's had, some limited production, but also, kind of some limited opportunities here. He only has 10 receptions on 14 targets through 4 games. That's a little over 3 receptions per game, or 3 targets per game. But he's still averaging 14.5 yards per catch, getting 145 yards. So he's still being able to make those big plays like he always has. And honestly, right now, that would lead the Chargers in yards per reception. Quentin Johnston's at 12.9. Ladd McConkey is at 11.7. So Mike Williams is still doing what Mike Williams has done his entire career, and that's go up and get the football and make big explosive plays down the field.
It's what made him a Chargers fan favorite, right? I mean, how many times did we know that the Chargers had to go to Mike Williams in a gotta-have-it situation, and the 50-50 balls were 80-20 balls when thrown in his direction? You don't want your offense to be predicated on 50-50 balls and just throwing it up, but at the same time, you get to a situation where there are times where the protection isn't great. You have to kind of just throw it up and hope that your receiver can go make a play on it. Right now, Mike Williams is still one of the best in the business at doing that, and you don't really have that guy right now. But why would the Jets want to get rid of him, right? It probably could happen even if they don't get Davante Adams. I don't know, because the thing is he's just been such a small part of what they have going on there. He's clearly been wide receiver 3 for them, but in targets, he's the 5th most targeted offensive player in that offense so far. You said it. I mean, he's averaging less than 3 targets a game. He's averaging only 2 catches per game. So if they were to get Davante Adams, what does a role for Mike Williams look like? And I think for Mike Williams, who didn't come back to the Chargers in free agency, I think he's probably realizing now, hey, the grass isn't always greener. I thought this was a good situation. Maybe that's where he had the most money or had the best opportunity to go to. But I think he'd come back to the Chargers with open arms now that he knows kind of, hey, if I'm here for this season in New York, what is my next contract going to look like? Right.
Yeah.
Not that he has the, necessarily the sway to say, hey, trade me to this team. But I don't think he would really, want to. I don't think there's any bad feelings there as far as him not wanting to come back to LA. I mean, if you're talking about, what he did in 5 games so far this year, 10 catches for 145 yards. In 2.5 games last year, because he got hurt in the 3rd game last year against the Vikings, he had 19 catches for 249 yards.
Yeah, it was going crazy.
In 2.5 games, literally half of what he's played this year, and he had almost twice the production. So I think that when you're looking at why it makes sense, we know what he has with Justin Herbert. We know kind of what this team is missing right now with an ex-receiver, and I don't think that there's any kind of wide receiver conflict as far as he would work fine with DJ Chark. He works fine with Quentin Johnson. He works fine stylistically with Ladd McConkey. So yeah. I think, hey, if the opportunity is there, David, it would probably only cost a day 3 pick, maybe even a pick swap, especially if they went and got Devontae Adams.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. I think, you're looking at a 30-year-old wide receiver that's coming off of an ACL recovery. That's not been a big part of what they have going on with the Jets offensively. So I think there is a real opportunity to go in and maybe, see if that's something that you can arrange. And, with the comp picks that the Chargers already have, they definitely have multiple of them coming their way. They have some ammunition to be able to go out there and make a move and add to their team if they feel like it will benefit them.
I mean, I feel like Joe Ortiz, for me, has full reign to trade any day 3 pick he wants because he's supposed to have 3 coming down the pipeline next year. And they probably setting up to have some more in 2026 and beyond. So I trust him to, work with the capital that he has. And this is a guy that, unlike the other 2 receivers we've talked about as far as trades go, doesn't seem like he would cost very much. And what his relationship is with Justin Herbert, and that he could be good in Los Angeles. So if you're not going to make a move like that, because we've seen the Chargers stand pat at wide receiver so far, and you want kind of some of the skill set that Mike Williams brings, why not try Brandon Rice out a little bit, David? I mean, I know he hasn't played much. Simi Fehoko has been kind of wide receiver 4 for this team right now. But if DJ Chark doesn't play this week, I absolutely want to see Brandon Rice on the field. Like, I want to see him get out there and see what he can do a little bit, because he's not the same wide receiver as Mike Williams is, but he brings some of the same attributes, though, right? I mean, he knows it has the ability to go up and get it. It could potentially be the best on the Chargers that if he's given the opportunity to. Potential red zone threat, a good route runner for his size. We know he's a plus blocker in the running game. David, give the dude a chance if you're not going to go make another move.
Absolutely agree. I think when you look at Brandon Rice and his skill set, like, he has an ability to go down the football field and make plays. Like, this is a couple of the things that I had on my scouting report from watching him. Excellent blocker, keeps working for his quarterback, a strong hands through contact, can put his foot in the ground and stop quickly. Via strength, tracks the ball well over his shoulder, and he has good body control. Those are all things that help you down the football field in those contested catch situations. So if you don't go make a move for one of the better contested catch wide receivers in the NFL, why not give a kid a chance that has all of the tools to go out and make those type of plays? He just needs a chance. He has, he's been active, but he hasn't really been on the field. They haven't set up any plays to get him involved in the offense. I think it's a good time right now, coming off the bye week, to try to incorporate Brandon Rice into this offense, if that is going to be part of the plan going forward.
Plan, sure. Yeah. I mean, Simi Fehoko has 1 catch in 80 total snaps. He's played 30 passing snaps. I'd be fine if those went to Brandon Rice. I like the Simi Fehoko story. He was awesome in the preseason. He's had a little bit of a chance. He's still a special teams guy, and you can still keep him there. But I'd rather see kind of what Brandon Rice can do at this point, because, I mean, we've seen kind of what through 4 games Simi Fehoko can do. I'm ready to see the kid. I mean, let's see what he has. You had him make this roster. You're not just doing it for special teams purposes. Let's see what he can actually do on the field, because I think even in training camp, what you saw was that he was making deep plays too, and you haven't really had that. So I'm excited to see him when he finally gets on the field. It was awesome having him on the show. You can tell he's ready for that opportunity. But if you're not going to make any changes to the room, why not try a different guy that's in the room already and just isn't getting the opportunity? Because the offense has been tough to watch at a lot of the time. But Can they fix it? Will it be fixed by the end of the season? I do think the best version of this offense we haven't seen yet, and we will see. So we're going to talk about that and much more in today's Locked On Chargers podcast. First, though, I got to tell you guys about PrizePicks, because PrizePicks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members, and it's the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike other apps, on PrizePicks, it's just you against the numbers. I know David has been playing PrizePicks religiously and winning money on PrizePicks, but PrizePicks also offers great promotions that can lead to big payouts like Taco Tuesday. Each Tuesday, PrizePicks discounts select player projections up to 25%, giving you even more value in your lineup. And one of the great things about PrizePicks, it's the best way to get in action in sports in most states, including California, Texas, and Georgia. But for this weekend's game against the Broncos, you go with Justin Herbert to throw more or less than 180.5 yards, and pair that with J.K. Dobbins running for more or less than 57.5 rushing yards. You could also go with, if you want to go crazy and go with 3 of them, Ladd McConkey getting more or less than 42.5 receiving yards. And that one I actually love this week, especially since he shouldn't be getting a lot of Patrick Surtain. But all you have to do, download the PrizePicks app and use the code LOCKEDONNFL and get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code LOCKEDONNFL on PrizePicks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks, run your game. David, let's get into our Chargers mailbag. Thank you to everyone who hit us up at Locked On LAC, and to the voluminous number of callers that called into the voicemail line at 323-524-7924. Love getting that old school AM radio feel, which is the way that my dad used to listen to it in the car. So love to everyone that called in. We appreciate you guys. Love everyone who asked their questions on Twitter. But this is a good one here, David, that we have from Jackson, who wants to know if it's going to get figured out for this Chargers offense.
Dan, David, this is Jackson here. Big fan of the podcast. The question I have for you guys is, do you think that the offense gets fixed by the end of the season? It's kind of a weird thing to see that we are now witnessing a great Charger defense, but a struggling offense. What say you guys?
It's a great question, because we have seen the opposite of that very often. What do you think?
Yeah, I think we haven't seen anywhere close to the best that the Chargers offense is going to offer us this season. I feel like the offensive line is still trying to find its chemistry. I think Herbert has not been unleashed quite yet, and there's going to be some opportunities for that to happen. We'll talk about that a little bit later on in the show. We've seen some strong rushing performances, but I still think that unit is still trying to find its chemistry and its communication. And it's consistency, right? Yeah. Most importantly, I think there's some good things. I think they need to feed Ladd McConkey more. He's clearly a guy that's moving the ball down the field, a key catalyst for the offense. They need to continue to put Quentin Johnston in those yards after catch opportunities and let him continue to use that skill set for the betterment of the Chargers offense. And I think they need to continue incorporating the screen game. I think we saw that a little bit in the previous, last few games. And I think we need to see a lot more of that going forward. It will help the Chargers stay ahead of the sticks, which we know is very important for this offense.
Yeah, it's hugely, hugely important for this offense, especially the way that it's been struggling to stay ahead of the sticks. It's just not an offense that can overcome that. But I think all of those points are true, and all of those things can help. But I think one of the things we don't talk about nearly enough is just the fact that they probably don't have the personnel to perfect it yet, right? This is a team that has looked much more like a Harbaugh team than any team that we ever saw in, the Staley era for sure. At the same time, though, Joe Ortiz has only had one offseason where he was $60 million over the cap at one point to try to build the team in Jim Harbaugh's image, right? So, you can't swap out the entire offensive line right in 1 year. You can't draft 11 starters in 1 year. I also have the faith that Joe Ortiz absolutely still could make a move, even though he's been quiet to this point. Once the trade deadline gets closer, I think that we absolutely could see a move. But this is the other big thing. The bye week is great, but the bye week is way better if you have a good coaching staff, right? So I think this is one of the first opportunities that we have to see in the aspect of making adjustments for this coaching staff to have this extra week off and to work on the problems that they have. And I do think that the best offense for this team is yet to come. I don't think we've seen it yet. I think we've seen good rushing performances and poor passing attacks and, okay passing attacks and poor rushing performances, but it hasn't been nearly good enough because they've scored 10 points in each of the last 2 games. But let's get to this one here from Laser Beaming on Twitter, who asked, do you think the offense leans more on Herbert more in the future, or are we going to see more of the same with the run game being the main component of the offense? David, the Chargers have run the ball 53% of the times this year, and they've thrown the ball 47% of the time. I think a good amount of that was because of the Carolina Panthers game where they basically just ran the ball the entire second half. So I don't know if it's probably closer to 50-50. Do you think that this team will rely on Justin Herbert more down the stretch of the year?
I do. I think there's several opponents that the Chargers are going to be playing on their docket that will lend themselves to the Chargers having a game plan that's more throwing the ball down the field. Baltimore Ravens, 31st in yards allowed, 280.2 passing yards per game. Tampa, 28th. Saints, 26th. Patriots, 25th. So there are several teams coming up on this Charger schedule that are a lot more susceptible to the pass. I do feel like, and the Chargers have said it before, we are going to tailor our game plan according to what we know we can do best, and we can exploit the weaknesses of our opponents. And so there's going to be some opportunities for them to have some more passing-centric game plans in the near future.
And we'll see what that looks like, right? Because that's not what Greg Roman's known for, setting up pass-centric game plans. And really what we have seen from this team is if the running game doesn't work, neither does the offense. I was surprised to see that they're 14th in first down run rate. I thought they would have been much higher on that list because my first thought was feels like they should be throwing the ball more often on first down.
Agreed.
Because I do think they've been much better throwing the ball on first down than they have been running the ball on first down. It feels like they actually run the ball better on later downs. And I think the timing of the runs and when you're deciding to run is much more important. And I also think that the first down passing number is super inflated due to the amount of first down penalties that this team has had.
A lot.
Where you're not going to be throwing on or you're not going to be running the ball on 1st and 20 or 1st and 15 nearly as much. And I think that kind of inflates it. I think they need, more play action, give Justin Herbert the best opportunities to have the better defensive alignments and coverages for him to work against and base defenses and things like that. I think it'd help a lot. And I think a lot of it is because of injuries, and especially specifically to the one that Justin Herbert has, which is definitely slowing down the offense a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
In the offensive line play, which brings us to our next one here from Jason Springle Sr., who says, is there too much focus on a balanced play calling with the running and passing numbers so similar? Almost a 50-50 split. This approach has resulted in a 2-2 record with Herbert passing yards at an all-time low. Is this an execution problem or a play calling problem? And David, I do want to focus on that part of it because it is, at the end of the day, a mix of everything. There's no one thing you can put your finger on and just say, this is it. But if I was to do that, it wouldn't be either of those things. I think the play calling outside of, some situations has been fine. I know, it's not Ben Johnson. It's not, Kyle Shanahan or anything like that.
Right.
Because those teams are run-centric teams that also have great passing attacks. That's what we want, right?
Yeah.
You can run the ball more than you throw the ball like the Lions did and still be top 10, top 5 in both passing and rushing yards. That's possible. It doesn't have to be one or the other.
It is.
The biggest thing to me is the interior of the offensive line. It's hard to do anything. It's hard to execute. It's hard to know how to game plan and what plays to call when you can't trust the interior of your offensive line to give your quarterback a chance to actually execute that play, even if it's the best play in the world. There haven't always been that 4th down call, when they finally did go for it in the end zone, I didn't like the play call, or at least they didn't have the right play call to counter what KC did because KC covered it absolutely perfectly and there was nobody open at all.
Yeah.
But it's incredible Justin Herbert hasn't been sacked 25 times already through 4 games. Truly. So far this season, the Chargers are 31st in pass block win rate. This is supposed to be the best offensive line that Justin Herbert ever had. This is supposed to be a coaching staff that could improve the guys that they had right now and get a competent, even above average offensive line in front of Justin Herbert. Your offense is going to continue to do bad if you're 31st in pass block win rate. You're not going to be able to throw the ball more than you run the ball if you have a 31st in pass block win rate. So to me, play calling, execution, all of that stuff is a problem. But it's really the interior of this offensive line that is mostly holding this offense back, in my opinion.
I agree with that. And I think it's especially important right now because of Justin Herbert's injury and his lack of mobility. He's getting pressure in his face almost immediately, and he's having to try to extend plays and move around on a bum ankle. And I don't know if anybody's out there has had a sprained ankle before, but it's not very much fun to walk around, let alone have to go out there and make split-second decisions and get away from the fastest, strongest, and smartest.
It's the side-to-side stuff that hurts the most, right? He doesn't have the opportunity to just walk in a straight line when he gets the snap.
Yeah, it's brutal, and it's been brutal the last few games. So
Yeah.
the Chargers have to get that fixed. They got to get it at least in a better situation, because if the Chargers continue to put Justin Herbert in 3rd and 15 situations, they are going to lose a lot more football games. And that's because he doesn't have any time to step up and make plays. That's got to change.
It's a vicious cycle, right? Like, your running game has been bad the last couple of weeks, which puts you in bad down and distances, which puts the offensive line in a terrible position. And then the offensive line can't block for Justin Herbert, and which makes you want to run the ball, which you can't do, right? So it's like it all comes full circle. It's a vicious cycle that they're kind of stuck in offensively the last couple of games. And they've been missing, their top 2 tackles for, 1.5 games too. So I think the other big thing here, obviously, penalties. It's just not a team that can survive the amount of penalties. And the penalties in big moments, penalties in the opposite side of the field, you just can't have it. So we do have more to get into, including a Thier calling in, of course, who thinks the Chargers might win their next 6 straight games. And also a question about if Jim Harbaugh's offense and the way he's trying to build things is actually conducive to being a giant slayer and taking down some of the big teams they still have left on their schedule. So we're getting into all that and more in today's Locked On Chargers podcast. First, though, David, I need to tell you guys that this episode is brought to you by FanDuel. NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and much more on the same page where you place your bets, which is awesome to have something that is tracking and giving you live updates about all of your bets, so you don't have to have 17 TVs to keep track of them all, which is great. But you know where we're going tonight. Game 4, NLDS, Padres, Dodgers. After giving you guys the Fernando Tatis Jr. home run prop last night, we have more good ones tonight. The Padres are currently favored to win this game. They're at -146 on the money line right now. But we hit on Fernando last night. Tonight, I'm looking for El Capitan, Manny Machado, to homer, and you can get that at +430 on the way to the NLCS. So get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet on FanDuel. That's FanDuel.com. I also need to tell you guys about Hillsdale College, because history, economics, the great works of literature, the meaning of the U.S. Constitution. Did you study these things in school? Probably not. Or even if you did, maybe it's time for a refresher. Time and technology have changed a lot of things, but they have not changed basic fundamental truths about our world and our place in it. Our sponsor, Hillsdale College, is offering more than 40 free courses, including Constitution 101, the meaning of history of the Constitution, Introduction to Free Market Economics, The Great American Story, A Land of Hope, The Rise and Fall of the Roman Republic, and a brand new documentary-style course on Marxism, Socialism, and Communism. All Hillsdale courses are self-paced, so you can start whenever and tune in whenever. Plus, you can go deeper with reading, quizzes, discussions, and much more. So go right now to hillsdale.edu/lockedon to enroll. There's no cost, and it's easy to get started. That's hillsdale.edu/lockedon to register. hillsdale.edu/lockedon. All right, David, we have more great stuff to get into on this Chargers mailbag day, including talking about the Jim Harbaugh team and kind of what they're trying to build here. And also, Thier calls in. When he calls in, he gets on the show because he's always awesome. But thank you guys for making us your first listen. Thank you to everyone who hit us up at Lockdown LAC to get your questions in, or hit us up at 323-524-7924 on the Locked On Chargers voicemail line. If you need a second listen, make sure to check out the new slate on Locked On NFL. 2 shows a day. Tyler the Madman Rowland in the morning to wake you up. And you can also hit up Tony Wiggins in the barbershop later on with all the local experts who cover their team every single day. Check that out on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast from. David, let's start here with a voicemail. We got all voicemails on this one. But asking, I think, a really good question that is going to be very important for the Chargers down the stretch this year.
Hey, boys. Love the show. This is Jermaine out of Wilmington, Delaware. I'll keep it brief here. So my question is do you think Jim Harbaugh's style of play this year is going to be conducive to us winning games against some of the upper echelon teams, your Kansas Cities, Houston, hell, even Denver lately? Or do you think we're going to have to make a move here? Let me know what you think. Again, love the show. Peace out.
A+ on the dismount. David, what do you think?
Yeah, I think when it comes to this here, I do feel like Jim Harbaugh's style is conducive to winning football games. I think it's all about the execution of the plan. Like right now, the Chargers have the best defense in the NFL. That's definitely going according to plan. Okay. Secondly, the Chargers have to have little to no mistakes. They have to have a physical and effective running game that keeps them ahead of the sticks, and they have to protect Justin Herbert. Like, if they do those things, and that's all part of the core philosophies of this offense, then yes, it is a style, and also defense. It is a style on both sides of the ball that is conducive to playing against the better teams in the NFL. But it's all about that execution.
Yeah, I think, idealistically, it is, right? And we've seen teams lose to teams that can run the football and shrink the clock. And if you're playing against excellent quarterbacks, you limit the amount of possessions that they have. You beat the other team up with a good run game and a good defense. And unfortunately, not all of those things are true consistently for the Chargers right now. Like, yes, it is what he wants to build is built to take down teams like that. Like, we've seen teams like the Titans, right, give the Kansas City Chiefs problems in the past, playing a similar type of kind of smash mouth football. I think the other thing is it just might not show up right away, right?
Yeah.
Like, they've done it and they've given themselves a chance against two good teams. They gave themselves a chance against the Kansas City Chiefs in a game where they didn't have either of their starting tackles, and when they didn't have their best edge rusher, they didn't have their best safety, and they lost 17-10.
Yeah.
So, like, it gives them a chance, and we're seeing it, right? Having a great defense, having a good running game can win you games against these kind of teams, but you still have to be able to do it. And they have to be able to fully actually, actualize what he wants this offense to look like. But again, they don't necessarily have the personnel to do it exactly the way they want it. But at the same time, I do think we will see them pull off a big upset this year, playing that exact style of football. But when is it going to happen? How quickly can we see it? I know Ethier wants to definitely see it soon. Let's see what he has for us this week.
Dan, David, this is Ethier. David, Coach Harbaugh is here to win these kind of games. The next 6 games, best offense, Cardinals, Bengals, best defense, Broncos. I expect my coach to win all 6 until Baltimore. Am I asking too much from my coach? Thank you. Love you.
I love you. Yeah, it's asking too much to go 6-0 in the next 6 games. But it's funny because I think these two voicemails are basically asking the, totally opposite questions, right? Like, one of the parts about Harbaugh is you want to be able to be a giant slayer. You want to be able to contend with the juggernauts in the NFL and take down these really good teams. The other part of it is you want this team to be able to take care of business against the teams that they should beat and not play down to their competition. So I definitely get what Ethier is saying here. They have an easier stretch coming up over these next 6 games. There's not a lot of gimmies. I don't think it's 6-0, but I do think they better finish with a pretty good record during this 6-game slate.
Yeah, I think when you're looking at this, the Denver Broncos is probably the best team, at least right now, schedule-wise or record-wise, that's on, the docket for the next 6 games. It's Broncos, Cardinals, Saints, Browns, Titans, and Bengals. And the Broncos are the only team that's over 500. There's a couple of 2-win teams and, 3 1-win teams at this point in time. So this is a part of your schedule where you kind of got to get fat. You got to go out there and win and beat the teams that you're supposed to beat. The Chargers should be favored in every single one of these games, and they need to go in and take care of their business. I really do believe that if they want to make something out of this season, this stretch right here is where you set yourself up to do it at the end.
Yeah, I do think some of it's a mirage, right? Like, I think, like, the Broncos might have the best record in that stretch. They're not the team that scares me the most. Like, I would much rather play the Broncos than the Bengals, who might be 1-4, but they also just put up 35 in a loss last week, right? Their defense might be bad, but if the Chargers aren't going to win a lot of track meets, it's just not their style. And that's an offense that's proven they can put up points. And in those type of games, I don't know if I like the Chargers to be able to keep up with it, because even against Carolina Panthers, they put up 26, right? It's not like this team has scored 30 points even against the bad defenses they've gone up against this year. So the Bengals scare me out of that group. I mean, I'm not like totally 100% convinced right now they're going to go 1-0 in their next one. Let's not look past this tough game they have.
Absolutely not.
Going up against a top 10 defense in a place that Justin Herbert has never won in his entire career.
Yeah.
Right. Let's not overlook that, because I'd love for them to go 6-0. I think realistically they need to go 4-2 during this 6-game stretch, because you want to know who the next 4 teams are after you play this, because it's going to get a lot uglier a lot more quickly, because those teams seem like all beatable teams. After that, though, you get Baltimore, Atlanta, Kansas City, and Tampa Bay. So you want to talk about winning records, all of those teams are going to have winning records by the time you play them, for the most part. You have to assume. So it's going to get tougher after the 6-game stretch, so I definitely understand what you're saying, Ethier. They have to take care of business. The Titans are a mess. The Cleveland Browns are a mess. Those teams you should absolutely beat, and you can say you're convincingly better than those teams. You might be able to play the Saints with no Derek Carr, right? Just suffered a weak injury, got a game coming up in 3 weeks. That could be part of it too, right?
Oh, yeah.
The Cardinals, who knows with them, man? You know, they just beat the 49ers and they smoked the Rams, but then they've lost their other 3 games. So kind of hard to know what to expect from them. It's not just a rollover team. I do think the Bengals will get a lot better too. So it is a stretch that you have to be good in. I'm not going to say 6-0, but I'll tell you what, if they do go 6-0 in that stretch, I'll be a full-blown believer in everything that Jim Harbaugh ever says and it comes out of his mouth for the rest of time. So let's see what they can do. They do need to beat the teams they should beat, and there's a lot of teams in that 6-game stretch you could argue the Chargers will be favored against and that the Chargers should absolutely beat. But one of the toughest ones, maybe the toughest one, is coming up this week, and it starts with taking care of business. It'll prove a lot to me if the Chargers can go take down the Broncos in Denver, even with their offensive situation. Their defense is really good. It's a tough place to play, and we're going to talk about all of it tomorrow because it's crossover Thursday, so make sure you guys are back here for Locked On Chargers, Locked On Broncos in the first matchup of the season. I think a lot of big storylines to get into. Can the Chargers offense of adjustments in this bye week take shape, and can we actually see a positive difference in that offense? That's one of the main things I'm going to be looking forward to. So to make sure you guys don't miss it, go subscribe or follow for free on the Locked On Chargers YouTube channel and listen wherever you get your podcast from. You can also find the show every day on our social media. You can hit us up on Twitter at Locked On LAC, on Instagram at Locked On Chargers, and our Locked On Chargers Facebook page. You can also, like Athir and all the other callers, call into 323-524-7924 if you have a 30-second Chargers question or buy or sell. But super excited. The bye week is over. We got a game coming up in only a few days, and it doesn't feel like game week until crossover Thursday. So make sure you guys are back here tomorrow for that. But until then, take it easy and go Bolts.